Hi class, this is part two. For part two, and once again, these problems are coming out from your mini lecture notes. So if you haven't printed it out, print it out. You have it on there. So in this case, we're gonna take a look at part two and three at the same time because they are related to each other. So, so part two, what they're starting you off with is with these equations, and they want you to figure out the slope and the y-intercept. So what we need to do first of all is know the slope-intercept form, or what I previously mentioned, setting up your equation equal to y. Just y by itself. You would have to transfer everything that would have on the left-hand side to the right-hand side. Now the coefficient in front of the x, that it will be known as your slope, and the one that is attached to it by either a plus or a minus is known as your y-intercept. Now keep in mind that your y-intercept we had discussed before is also when you have 0 for x and you're solving for y. So keep that in mind. So it's a fairly simple process. If your equation is already set up in that form, in other words, it's set up equal to y, there's nothing else attached to it on the left-hand side, then you just take a look at the number in front of x. That'll be your slope. So the slope here will be 3. And the second number, in this case, the plus 4, is your y-intercept. So your y-intercept is equal to 0, 4. And that's it. That's all they want. So there's nothing too fancy about this. Let's try another one. So in this case, we have our equation set up equal to y once again. So the value in front of x is your slope. So this will be 4/3. And your y-intercept, once again, you gotta label it as 0 and it's negative 3/5. So there is your slope and your y-intercept. Once again, this thing is more visual than anything else. Where you have to do a little bit more work is if your equation is not set up equal to 1, like we had in this case. So we take a look at D right there. We're going to have to manipulate that equation first so we could set it up into that slope-intercept form. In other words, ymx plus b. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to start isolating y. So what you need to do is to remove that x from the left-hand side. Once again, we're going to take the normal procedures for solving equations to do that. So in this particular case, to get rid of positive 2, we need to get rid of that by doing its opposite. So it's minus 2x. So you're transferring the x to the other side. So here it cancels out. So you have 5y. Make sure you put x first, negative 2x, and this is a positive 3. Once again, keep that in mind, that you cannot combine these because one is just a whole number and the other one has a variable attached to it. So you need to rewrite it this way. Alright, so we're getting close to this, but we still need to get rid of the 5 in order for you to have y by itself. So remember, this is 5 times y, so you do the opposite. So you're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 5. So each of these items gets divided by 5. So you have y equals negative 2/5 x plus 3/5. So now your equation is set up into that slope-intercept form. So all you have to do now is just take a look. Your slope here is negative 2/5. and your y-intercept is equal to 0 and 3/5. And that is your answer. Now, the reason why we're doing section part 2 and 3 at the same time is because they're related to each other. So part 3, and it's right here, is asking you write the equation of the line in ymx plus b form. So they're already giving you the slope and they're giving you the y-intercept. So that is a fairly easy process. All you have to do is substitute those parts in there. Remember, you have to put it in the ymx plus b form. This is also known as your slope-intercept form. Remember that. So simply substitute the values in there. So the slope is 2. And remember, the y-intercept is -4. So for that b right there, we're going to put -4. And that is your equation for this. So it's y equals 2x minus 4. Nothing difficult about that. Same thing with the other one. We had the fraction -3/2 as a slope, and we have the y-intercept 0 and 5/6. So go ahead and substitute the values in there. So it'll be, the slope will be -3/2 x. Because remember, we're substituted in there. And then the y-intercept is positive 5/6. So we just attach to it. And that is your equation right there. So once again, nothing difficult, nothing hard about these sections. You just really have to put in terms, the terminology. You have to put attention to it. All right, so this concludes part 2 and 3 of section 7.3.